Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome to the show, everybody. Yes, she's back. She missed, she had a little vacay time and did that last week, but she is back here and such a wonderful smiling face. It's great to have you back here, my dear.
Well, thank you. It's been quite the shock in a few different ways and different reasons to go from there to here, but it is nice to be back home. But I also do miss it. I definitely shed some tears as we took off, and of course I miss you. So I'll be back eventually.
Well, and now you've seen where I live, what I look like, and all that stuff. So you can you can picture me in my studio and doing this, and I saw pictures of you, and you showed me a little bit. So that's really great. One of these days, I'm going to get there, and not exactly sure how or why, but I will get there. We've got a great guest for you today, for everybody today. And would you like to introduce him? And because I had to, in order to make sure my setup was clean, I had to shut everything down. So would you like to introduce him, my dear?
I would love to. And as I bring him in, this is Doug Giesler. We are so excited to have him. He has a website called unlimityourlimit.com. And welcome, Doug. I would love for you, since you do it so well, to kind of share who you are and why you do the work you do.
Sure, I'd love to. Thanks, Michelle, and thanks, Kevin. I learned some stuff in my midlife that was super ridiculously powerful, and it really needs to be shared with the world. That's the basics. I'll save you the 15 to 20 minute intro and start there because we've got a lot of good stuff to talk about.
Yes, we do. And in fact, Doug, you will really appreciate this story that I'm about to tell. Because it was really heartfelt and it happened just the other day. Michelle, as some of our guests know, visited us here in Seattle, and on the day before, they couldn't catch the flight that they were hoping to catch, so they had to stay one more night, which I'm grateful for. But they had to get up at 2:30 in the morning, so we went out to dinner at a Denny's at like 4:30 in the afternoon, and there were just a couple of people there, but the waitress was really, really charming and 8 months pregnant or so. She appeared to be. And she was running around taking care of everybody. She was the only one there. And she had a wonderful smile and she took great care of us. But the story that I want to tell happened as we were leaving because Rochelle had to go wash her hands in the restroom. And then when she once you meet Rochelle, you'll understand that when she gets a head on and starts moving and with a purpose, she's quick and she's fast. And she passed right by us and said, "I'll meet you at the car." And she was like, "Woof." And she walked up to the waitress and they had a conversation. And then they hugged. Then they had a little bit more of a conversation and then they hugged again. That because of the kindness that Rochelle showed to that young lady at that particular moment in time, it changed her day, changed her week. And that is something that she is never going to forget because it was such a positive, kind, supportive, empathetic moment in time. And I wanted to publicly say to Rochelle, I am so damn proud of you. That was just awesome that you did that because that was in your heart to do. And congratulations, because that's who you are.
Yeah, I am So proud of myself as well. And thank you, Kevin. It is weird to even say that, but when you're connected to yourself, you're connected to everything. And to try to avoid tears, I'll keep this short because we have a lot good to talk about with Doug today. But that's why I love the work you do, Doug, because it would have eaten me alive if I didn't do it. It wasn't something that was an option. It was something I knew I needed to do, that I wanted to do that whole time. I had been waiting for us to leave so that I could share some words with her. And when we got back in the car, I lost it. I cried completely. It was overwhelming even for me to be that person. But it was just so powerful. A young mother doing what she has to, no matter what it is, and taking it all on as she's growing that child is something I cannot put words into. And she needed to know how powerful she was.
Yeah, and that's awesome because you just demonstrated everything that I talk about. It's about bringing your best self to the moment and knowing what that moment needs. And you were it right
Thank
there.
you.
That's awesome. Good for you. I'm proud of you too.
Thanks. It had to happen. There was it wasn't an option. And I'm glad that the universe made me this way, because I'm fully capable of being who that is now that I'm learning who that is.
Yeah. And the cool thing is, like, your heart is connected to your mind and they're
Right.
communicating, and then you're able to deliver, what's needed in the moment, in the moment.
Yeah.
A
Well,
lot
and
of
I
times.
think what's so deep about it, which you understand, is that it comes from a part of me who wishes I would have had that in those moments,
Mhm.
because people are so stuck in their own realm and their own little world and their mind and what's going on. And when you step outside of that a little bit, you see things completely different. And how much it would have impacted me to be the person I get to be for other people if I would have had that,
Yeah.
is the reason why I think it's driven so hard. And you
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah, absolutely. We all learn our lessons. We all learn them differently, and we all arrive to the moment as different people.
Right.
And the interesting thing that I found is sometimes, I arrive in a moment and you're meant to help me, and then
Mhm.
other times I arrive in a moment and I'm meant to help you. And a lot of times it's mutual, but there's always a benefit to people meeting and getting together and talking and having experiences. And a lot of times we're able to pull multiple people up, just from
Yeah.
the experiences that we go through in life. And I started the show talking about, going through some experiences in my midlife. I had get through nicotine and eating too much, and just excess, and learning to kind of connect my mind with my heart, which weren't connected at that time. And so, making those connections and feeling the feelings and learning, how that shows up within me enabled me to deliver a better person for the rest of my life. And that's been a progression, and it continues to be a progression,
Yeah.
And
as
will
it is
be
with everybody else.
Yeah.
and will be as long as you're here.
That's right. Yep. That's
And
I
right.
but
think when you start to open up to the idea of allowing learning at all given moments and periods of time, you realize how much you don't know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it makes it kind of fun, because I thought I was dumb when I was little. I was a hard learner unless it was hands-on or visualized. But it was so much more than that. And we all learn differently, but we do learn, and we're
No kidding.
capable of it.
We do. In matter of fact, you brought up one of the most powerful topics that I talk about in the books that I've written is exactly that. And it's the ability to arrive in the moment without looking backwards, towards ourselves or towards others. And the tool that I talk about, which is actually coming out in my second book this coming Saturday, is forgiveness. It's called the F word, forgiveness, and why that matters. And the reason why it matters so much is if we don't use a tool, you don't have to use forgiveness. You can use whatever tool you want to let it go. But the point is that when we're going through these experiences, we're bound to make mistakes. In fact, we have to make mistakes.
Mhm.
But oftentimes we get through the moment and then we look back and beat ourselves up for making mistakes. We have to make the mistakes, but then we have to actually forgive ourselves for making them, forgive other people for making them, understand what it was that caused the mistakes, whether it was something within me or the situation, whatever it was, and learn that lesson so that we can move forward in that moment.
Yep.
But if we can't let go of the past, then we can't get to the moment to begin with to make a new choice.
So Doug, I want to explore that with you a little bit more as far as you were at midlife and something touched you and you decided you needed to make a change. In my experience, I think that happens to all of us. It was at one time called a midlife crisis, and that's when you would go get the younger wife or the fast car or whatever when you were bald and a little. But in any event, when you are but when that happened for you, how did that present itself? Because it can be instructive.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really kind of interesting because I was in a different phase in my life. I was studying a lot of spiritual literature, and I was also studying the stock market, the futures markets, and I was coding in easy language, which is TradeStation's code. And so I was basically programming code, which I never knew how to do before. So I was learning how to use the code and then seeing what it would spit out on the computer as far as colors and things. And so I was programming that, but I was also reading spiritual stuff and watching my mind almost from outside of itself, watching what that code in my mind was producing in my life. And I started to do it on faster and faster and faster time frames because of the coding. The markets move very fast. And so what I saw was that I was not able to get out of my own way. Like literally, I would see a progression. I would see a trade taking place, and I would either get caught up in fear or desire, and I would blow it. So as I watched this on faster and faster time frames, I could see the progression, and my mind would either want to take the trade at a late point. Like, in other words, I would get caught up in the excitement about a trade, and then that emotion would overwhelm the mind, and the mind would not be in the moment to make a choice. So I would miss the trade, or I would take the trade too early, or I would take the trade too late. So what I saw was the evolution of the moment. So I was actually starting to watch my mind as I was coming into the moment and as the emotions were taking over the mind. And it was the emotions in me that was actually getting in the way. But until I understood what it was that was taking me out of the moment, I couldn't stay in the moment to make a choice. So that was a huge revelation for me because it taught me to watch my mind at a whole new level. Like, I talk about this all the time. You can be in a task and you can be performing that task. But if you're that dialed into that task, you don't see a plethora of other information. Like you've completely blocked it out. So let's say that, you get caught up in a task and you don't have this overarching awareness. Something could come through in a different manner. Like you could get a feeling that you don't see because you're dialed into sight. You could get something that came in from sound that you didn't hear because you were dialed in and so focused on sight. So there's different ways that messages and things come through to us in the moment when we're in the moment that we will never see or hear if we're not in the moment. We could be caught up in the past. We could be caught up in the future, fear, desire, regret, remorse, guilt, whatever it is in the past. Lack of forgiveness for ourselves or for others. Those are all different things that I talk about in the books that can literally take us out of the moment. And if we're not in the moment, we have no ability to choose. Yeah. Like past, future, desire, fear, whatever it is, whatever the emotions are, they take us out of the moments. We're done. So what I learned during that period was a starting point. It wasn't a finishing point. It was a starting point to really start studying myself and learning literally when I'm getting in my own way. And it's a huge timing thing, because if you can't maintain your presence and you let emotions, whether it be anger, frustration, guilt, regret, remorse, desire, fear, all these different things, because they all hit us differently. If you don't understand those aspects of yourself, which is really the key component of dialing in your heart. If you don't understand what's in your heart, then you won't be able to understand those emotions as they play out in your life. And as they come in, you just won't see stuff. You're basically blind to it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't see it, then you can't unlimit it. You have to see it first.
Wow, that is extremely powerful. Recognition and willingness to recognize is the first step, and it's the hardest step. I think we've heard that through many different people, and it's scary and it hurts a little bit too, because then you realize how much control you have had the whole time. Mm-hmm. And it is also empowering, though, because then you can decide from that moment forward how things will be, how they will play out, and how you will be throughout all of it. So with that said, we are going to take our first break real quick. It's not that long. Don't leave us. But when we come back, I bet Kevin has got quite the question for you. So everybody stay with us and we'll be right back.
At 67 years young, I never thought I'd feel this good again. But thanks to Purium's ultimate transformation lifestyle, to date, I've lost 37 pounds and gained energy, confidence, and a whole new outlook on life. This isn't a diet. Purium is a complete lifestyle change, giving me all the natural, organic, nutrition-packed superfoods that fuel my body, crush my cravings, and help me burn fat naturally, without starving myself. No gimmicks, no guesswork, just a simple, proven system that works. Superfood shakes, detox support, and real results. If I can do this at 67, imagine what you can do. It's your time to feel better, look better, and live better with Purium. Let's do it now, and let's do it together. Go to www.positivetalkradio.net and click on the Transform You to get started. That's positivetalkradio.net. Transform You. And welcome back, everybody, to Positive Talk with little old me and big old Rochelle over there. And we're talking with Doug Giesler, and he's an author, and he's written a couple of really good books. And if you go to his website, Rochelle, what's the name of the book? I had to close my internet.
Be the Instrument.
Be the Instrument. Yes. Remember book. Something about an instrument.
Yeah, Be the Instrument's the first book. Then the F Word, Forgiveness, is coming out this Saturday, and then the F Word, Faith, is going to be short to follow. They're all written. I was just waiting on covers, and now they're ready to go. So there'll be 2 more books coming out very soon. And then down the road a little bit, we're going to talk about some fear too.
Oh, perfect. That is a 4-letter word that I don't want to have any part of, by the way.
Oh yeah, a lot of people don't.
But now, Doug, I gotta ask you, because when you talk about your head and your heart and then messages, where in your frame of mind do the messages come from? Where do they resonate from?
You name it. When I went through that period in the middle of my life, I knew that I was supposed to be hearing. I knew that I was supposed to be feeling. I knew that I was supposed to be seeing, right? But I was basically blind. I couldn't hear. So I had a little conversation with the powers that be, and I said, listen, I can't hear you. Speak louder. And I didn't say it very nicely back then, but the bottom line is that the messages can come from, you name it. They'll come in billboards. They'll come in movie themes. They'll come, from other people. If we can't see our own mistakes, the powers that be will show it to us through somebody else. They'll show it to us through situations. They'll show it to us through characters that resemble things that we need to learn. All kinds of places and things. If you're present, you have to be present. If you're not present, you're not going to see it. You're not going to feel it. You're not going to hear it.
And isn't it amazing how the universe has this unique ability to, if you don't get the message, if you're not paying attention, it will repeat that message again and again until you wake up and you get the understanding that maybe I should have listened to this. And,
in fact, it gets louder and louder.
And more pronounced. And
that's right.
And that experience that you get could be even worse.
Well, and that's one of the things that kind of made me dial it in too, because I started to learn. I'm like, well, if I don't address it now, then it's going to become harder to deal with later.
Yep.
Means more pain, and the human, ego does not like pain. Right? That's
No,
one of the
we don't.
reasons why we like to blame instead of forgiveness. Ourselves
Ooh.
and others, right?
That is so good.
You don't blame Rochelle, do you?
No, but our mind,
Never.
the ego structure wants to blame first.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
Even if it's to ourselves, right?
Oh yeah. Yep. We'll beat ourselves up all day long. If we let ourselves do it,
Mhm.
that's what the tool's for. That's so you can let go, learn the lesson, move forward. Let go, so you get to the present moment. The key is getting to the present moment and letting go of that.
Isn't all of it tied to our innate desire to live our best life, and that's the reason that we're here, is to become, as Neil Donald Walsh says, become the grandest vision of the grandest version of who we really are.
Right. But that doesn't mean we have to be selfish. Right?
No, you can only become who you really are by giving it to somebody else.
That's right. Yeah.
Passing it
That's
on.
what I love about you guys. You guys get it.
Well, and it's like the story that we told about Rochelle at the top. She gave this other lady her energy, her power, which gave, by the way, and I don't know how they do this, but it gave Rochelle more energy and more power at the same time.
Yeah. Didn't your heart grew that day, right?
Yeah. If anything, I kind of couldn't. I had to okay, we went through that, and now we can move on, because even now I'm extremely emotional to her about it. I wish I would have mentioned, being on Positive Talk, but I wasn't thinking about myself. And I love how you mentioned about how it gets loud, because there's even those moments that when you're connected, it's not just like a whisper and then it gets louder. It will scream at you. And that was exactly what that moment felt like. It was like, hey, you do this now. And it was loud. And I was like, okay, because when I don't listen to it, I always see why I should have.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
And there would have been regret attached to it.
Oh, yeah.
Dang it.
100%.
Why didn't I do this?
Yep.
That would have made her day, and it made her week and her month and her year. Because I guarantee you, Rochelle, and this is what we all need to understand. When you do an act of kindness like that, what it does is she went home. If she has a significant other, she told him about that, or her, or her mom, or her aunt, or her, if she's got other children. And so it became a much bigger deal, because now it became her story of what somebody else gave to her.
And imagine how many people that girl told about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the feelings that were really heartfelt, and I'll bet she actually shed a tear or two over it.
I could tell at first it kind of off-put her, because she wasn't necessarily, she was young, but she was older than me, and I knew that. And that's what I approached her. I said, this might be odd coming from somebody who's clearly younger than you, but I need to tell you this. And I really don't even remember what I said. It was when you go still, everything stops.
Yeah.
Everything around me stopped. And I think what made it so much more impactful for me is when I turned around to walk back and expected, to just go to the car, have that moment with myself to breathe. And Kevin and my mother are standing side by side and watched the whole thing happen. And I remember not even stopping. I walked to go straight out the door, and I said, if we don't go to the car, I'm going to cry. And I just kept walking, and I walked my happy mom of it all the way over to the car. And it was choking me, so I had to release it a little bit, but I didn't.
Yeah.
It was just something that needed to happen, and I had to do it, and I didn't question it. I didn't think about it. I just did it.
That's so funny that you say it that way, though, Rochelle, because that's like when I was doing like the trading and watching my mind, it was like time was moving so slowly.
Yeah.
It was almost like freeze frame. And if like, you know, elite athletes and they're in the zone, like literally in the zone that I talk about in the books, and they get in the zone, it's like time's almost like
hours of time are just
so slow.
flipped. Yep.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you're
It
completely
is.
dialed into it. And Kevin, you brought up something earlier and asked me like when you start to hear this stuff and see this stuff, the cool thing is like when you first start to get it dialed in, like getting dialed into the moment, a lot of times you'll hear it or see it like after the fact. But then like as you start getting more dialed into it, you start seeing it closer and closer to the moment. And like as you're approaching the moment, you almost see that wave coming. And you're like, oh, I'm not going to make that.
Yeah.
And I've been here before, you know, and then you're dialed into it and you're like, and then you're right there and you're like, you know, you hit a home run, you know, literally in the moment for somebody else. Usually, sometimes it's for ourselves, but sometimes it's for other people. But that's how it happens. Like you start seeing it like, ah, shit, I did that again. And then you're like, gosh, crap, I did that again. And it happens, you know, it might be 10 times before you actually get it right, but you're constantly getting closer and closer to being in the moment. And as you learn the things that take you out of the moment by being that close, you see that one emotion that grabbed you and caught your attention just before you got to the moment. And by seeing that way or hearing it that way, you know what it was within yourself that kept you out of the moment to keep you from making that decision.
Well, and
And
Kevin, it was
getting dialed in.
It was so empowering to turn around and see your face right there, because I had realized in that moment that you see a different side of me that I've only got to project over a screen, not just in my daily life. And I realized how that also impacted you and what you've been able to provide for me, and then get to see that was something I could never have asked for, and I will replay for the rest of my life.
That's awesome.
It was maybe, well, certainly was number one. And I know I've never told you this before, and I'll never tell you this again, but I was so damn proud of you at that moment, because I could not have done that. Being a guy my age and stuff, but and I'm surprised. She walked over, Doug. She walked over there so fast. I'm surprised that the gal didn't run away, thinking, "Oh no, she's going to complain or something."
She was very nervous. Like, oh my gosh, here we go. You know, there's got to be something. Right. And then I watched her completely tense up. And then she dropped her shoulders and her eyes got big and she smiled underneath her mask. And I asked her, "Can I give you a hug?" And she said, "Oh, girl, come here." And she hugged me. Like, I felt like I was one with her and that baby in that moment. Like, for so many reasons for me personally, that was so powerful. And it just, awesome. I can't even really describe it. There's no way to have that feeling to describe unless you're really in that moment.
And Doug, I got to tell you, it's like when we do this show, we are given such gift of remarkable energy and power and vibration because of the show that we do, and people like you who come on the show, who you get it. You're down with it, brother. You know what you're doing, and you're trying to help the world understand it. And the major reason that I wanted to bring up what Rochelle did is that it didn't cost her anything.
Nope.
It didn't take any time, and we were all happy to stand there and we're just amazed at what was happening over there. And it made the whole room, even people that were sitting at a table, because there were people that were by there, and it affected everybody.
Yeah.
And it didn't cost anything. And it was a choice that she made because she had no choice in her mind. That was what, and her heart, that's what she had to do.
Yep. And it's stuff like that that makes us aware of what we can be, because somebody else did it. We saw it. It makes us know that we're capable of something like that. Like an example would be like, let's say we're watching a movie and we see somebody, like a character in the movie, demonstrate something that we know we need to be. It'll bring tears to our eyes.
Yeah.
Because we haven't become that yet. You know what I mean? So like to see Rochelle do something like that and we're not there yet, that would bring a tear to my eye. Like if I were not there, if I was not that person yet, it would show me an example of it, of what I need to be. And you can see it in movies, you can see it all kinds of places. People demonstrate it, and you just were a shining example of it in that moment for a lot of people.
Thank
And
you.
it's gonna continue to be a shining example as we explain it, you explain it, Kevin explains it, and relives it, over and over again, because it's gonna help more people.
Well, and I know we need to take a break. I'll let Kevin take us there. But I want to leave us with the thought of also who I had around me. To have my mom and Kevin, two people who understand that I do things that make no sense. And there's a reason for it that is deeper than the understanding, is really what made it so availably and impactful in a way in myself, because I was almost embarrassed for a moment, like, oh my gosh, like, why are you crying about that? Like, why are you so emotional?
Yeah.
But the two people that were around me understood that, and it made me also think about the surroundings that I used to have and what that allowed me to be, because they didn't understand me. And now I have people around me that are like, yep, that's Rochelle. And they don't question it, and they honor me for it, which makes me feel lots of things. So take us to break before I cry.
You're listening to Positive Talk. Doug Giesler is our guest, and he is a remarkable man. And when we come back, we're gonna talk about his website and the books and everything he's doing, because he can really help you if you choose to change your own life, because intentional choice is the key to eternal happiness, I believe. And we'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald and my best friend, Rochelle. I'm so glad that she is here, because Doug, I gotta ask you this. Doesn't she add a lot to the show?
Oh my gosh, yes. Vibrant. I can feel the positivity through the internet. Absolutely.
Well, I was telling Kevin that I love doing this so much, and this morning was a spitting example, because I want to get into work, but I have to share this, that I woke up and it's been rough. Adjusting, coming back, different time frames. There's the weather shock and the altitude, which I'm not used to, and all the above. It happened so fast. And I was struggling a little bit this morning, and we had our first interview and then the second one, and now we're doing a show with you, and everything is completely different. And it always brings me back to where I love to be. So thank you for being here with us and also having that energy, because we love it.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Let's go through all your information, because somebody in our audience has got a pencil and a piece of paper, and they want to write this down.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do it. So there's a couple websites that you can go get a free download. One is unlimityourlimit.com, which is on the screen, and the other is betheinstrument.com. So there's two separate free downloads there, and then you can also you can order the book on unlimityourlimit.com. You'll see a display of all three books that are, well, Be the Instrument's out now. And then you're going to have the F word forgiveness coming out this coming Saturday, I believe. And then the faith book is going to be out shortly thereafter. And I'll talk, if you'll give me a moment to talk about the difference between those, I'll take you through the progression. But the websites will give you an introduction to what I do and what I talk about, and it'll give you a good framework for it. And then you can also schedule a coaching call with me on the website as well. Ton of really, really good information. And if you want to just kind of dial in the moment, the Be the Instrument book is the entire framework of how to watch your mind and dial in to get into the zone in the moment to be able to give yourself the most powerful choice right now. That's what Be the Instrument's about. What I learned from the feedback from Be the Instrument was that everybody loves the book, but they wanted more information on letting go of the past and letting go of the future to maintain your presence in the moment. And so I pulled out two of the bigger topics of Be the Instrument and made them their own book to really dial into the past and future and the nature within us that takes us out of the moment, and using the tools of forgiveness to let go of the past, and using the tool of faith as a toggle to not try to control the future and get caught up in the fear and desire. So you're using faith as a toggle between the future and the present, and you're maintaining that presence because you trust and have faith. And so that's the framework for the 3 books. And then there's going to be another one coming down the road. I'm not sure exactly when, but the F word series is going to continue. And the next one in the evolution is going to be fear, because people struggle with fear. I struggled with fear. And that's one of the biggest things I think people don't really understand. And if you can really wrap your head around what fear is, it's just energy. Mm-hmm. If you can understand energy, whether it be guilt, regret, desire, excitement, fear, all the different emotions hit us a little bit differently. But if you really, really dial in those emotions and understand them, which means you have to get in touch with your heart. If you can understand that and how it hits you, because it doesn't hit me the same as it hits you. You have to understand it within yourself. And that's basically what I talk about at the end of Be the Instrument, is to evaluate and understand the belief structures within the ego, which drive that. And if you can understand the drivers of your own behaviors and your own reactions to things, then you can maintain your presence and have more of an ability to make an effective choice in the moment by being in the moment and not getting taken out of it. So that's kind of the framework of the books. And I think it'll just help people tremendously just to go through that evaluation process and go through the steps in the end of the book. It's basically a class in the end of the book, and it shows people what they need to do to really understand the belief structures within their own egos.
How did you learn all this?
A lot of pain. But that's the point, though. That's why I wrote the books, because I didn't want people to have to go through all the pain that I did.
I got news for you.
Pain, frustration, all that stuff, like bumping into myself all the time. It's like, no, not you again. Yep.
Well, and the thing is the ego doesn't allow you. I'm not going to believe anything he says, because that's him. Your ego is going to deny that. But that's when the universe keeps coming back and says, oh, yeah? Well, how about this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's there's stuff that I point out in the book that took me through it, but it's not about me. It's about helping people to understand themselves so that they can overcome their limits. Because awareness is key. Like, if you can't see where you're bumping into your own stuff, then you're not going to be able to overcome it. So the first step is awareness, becoming aware of it. So that's like the first part of the book. It's like, first we need to get you aware and manage the energy that arrives to the moment and the emotions and all the different stuff that takes us out of that moment. first we got to understand that, and then we can talk about overcoming our limits.
Well, I have to say, Doug, off that note, I love that you just mentioned that, because I've kind of what you exactly said is something I've kind of started with people around me, and I've seen a lot of teenagers and kids picking up on it that I'm around, and that is awareness is key. It is so funny because when people hear you say that, it makes them think about how they were aware. And I see all these kids, that I'm having my life and my family I'm talking to, and my little cousin came to me and she said something about how, yeah, that's my fault. I didn't even try. Awareness is key. Yeah. And since I've started saying that, people around me will they'll blurt out loud, I'm feeling this way, or this just happened, or they'll take responsibility for something. And so that's a way that I saw was that I was helping to make awareness more of a positive and exciting thing, rather than to have that realization. So it's been something fun that I've started, and I would challenge you to start that wherever you go and with what you do, because what you get to see reciprocate from just people hearing that in you, it's just amazing, because then they share their awareness with you and you get to help them through the moment.
Yeah. Yep. The key is, like you said, dialing it in, because I think when you tell people it's all about awareness, they don't really understand what you're talking about. And that's a lot of what's in these books, is showing people how to be aware, like what to look for within your own mind, like watching the evolution of the moment and seeing like the different things that take us out of the moment. Because if we're aware in the past, that's not going to help us. But if we're aware in the future, that's not going to help us either. We have to be that overarching awareness right now. You have to dial into the moment and presence, because that's where your power is. And so, but people don't understand what, I could be aware of going back to the task, but that's not going to help me if something comes from outside of the task. I need to have that more broad-based awareness, overarching awareness.
Aren't a lot of people actually afraid of being aware? Because awareness means accountability.
Sure it does.
It means that if you're aware of your behavior, then you probably are going to be unhappy with yourself based upon the things that we did or have done in the past, which is why I'm so glad that you talk about forgiveness as well, because once you become aware, tell me if I'm wrong, once you become aware, then you have to go through a whole process to forgive yourself for all the things that you just became aware of.
Absolutely, 100%. And we as an ego have selective hearing and selective vision and selective feelings, right? We want to feel this, so we feel this. We want to see this, so we see this. And we want to feel this, so we feel that. But we block everything else out. It's opening ourselves up to that bigger picture, that we see those patterns within ourselves, and we open ourselves up to the broader vision. And that's when we hear, see, and feel better. Because we see the whole picture.
And that takes practice and takes time, and also the help of, and I love that you asked the universe one day, you said, all right, guys, I think I don't really hear you, but could you turn the volume up a little bit, and then maybe I'll hear you better. But I love that you went through that exercise, because, and also looking, and this is happening to my friend over here, is that she is finding the most unique things are happening to her that she would not, if she wasn't gaining awareness, she wouldn't have recognized those things that are happening around her that become very important. Would you say that's true, Michelle?
Yeah, it's breathtaking, Kevin. It was like the moment where I decided to go out late one night, and I was going back in and I saw the light change, and I was scared because there could be a person, and like I have nothing to defend myself. I'm just out in Seattle, and I'm on the phone with my friend, and I'm looking around, but then I look down in front of me and there's a bunny rabbit. That is why, I don't know. And I shared that with Kevin, and I tell him that these things happen, and sometimes I don't understand it until later on. it was almost like the experience with that woman is I didn't realize how I had been impacting. It was just something I was doing, just being. And then I turned around and I saw Kevin and I was like, oh, okay, hold on. Because I recognized that the energy was completely different. It was like the switch of lights from the dim to LED. And I wouldn't have wanted anybody else there in that moment with me. And it's sometimes Kevin is really good at being able to break things down for me because it's just like, whoa. And then he's like, okay, well, let's break that up and see what does it mean, because you probably already have the answer. So I love it. It's cool. It's weird.
And she does. By the way, we're talking with Doug Giesler, and he's an author. He's written a couple of books. You simply have got to, if you choose to, okay, I'm going to dispense with that. You have got to get these books because they can take you on a journey. And when we come back from this break, I'm going to ask Doug, these books can take someone on a journey to experience the life that they've never even considered was possible. And you're taking people down that journey, and wonderful changes are happening for them if you choose to. We'll be right back.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
I just love that song. And Doug Giesler is here, and of course, Rochelle, the host of the show. I'm the host and creator, but she's the host with the mostest, and she's learning so much. And Doug, she's learning from you today, and it's so exciting to watch. She's like a sponge. She absorbs everything that you are talking about, and she'll be able to utilize it in her life. And you must have lots of reviews in your book and lots of people that have reached out to you to say, Doug, you made me a better person that I didn't even know was possible because I chose it to be that way now because of who I am. Have you gotten any responses like that?
Oh yeah, you can look on Amazon. There's several reviews on there already, but yeah, there's going to be more and more coming because there's been quite a few people that just call me and you know, that's what drives it. You know, it's the appreciation, people sending the love back, the you know, the experience that this opens them up to, expanding their horizons, expanding their lives. I think one of the things that you wanted me to talk about was, you know, how do you unlimit your limit, right?
Yep.
Well, first you have to arrive to the moment, and then you have the capability to make choices. But let's say that you really want to, you know, quote unquote, change your life, whether that be from here, or here, you know, you could be killing it. I mean, you could be having all kinds of success in the world, but there's always more. And if you want more, then you have to change the way that your mind operates and the belief structures that are within it. Because the ego will basically grasp onto comfort zones, patterns, programs. And so, like, let's say in any given day, we wake up and we start our day with yesterday, right? We have to convince ourselves that we're capable of more. We have to convince ourselves that what we believed yesterday is not my limit. In other words, if I don't expand my mind and believe in something before it happens, it ain't happening. It's all about belief. It's even in the Bible. You know, Jesus even talked about belief. You know, you have the belief of a mustard seed, right? And if you believe you can move mountains, you can move mountains. Well, that's not fake. That's real. Belief happens first, not second. So what we do, if you really want to unlimit your limits, first you have to see what those limits are. And then you have to expand your mind into believing that you can. So you go from a can't mindset to a can mindset. I can and I will. And you lose all the buts in your life, because everything that, you ever heard that expression? Everything that preceded a but is garbage. So you lose the big butts in your life, and you move forward from that point on, understanding that everything that you said before that is an excuse, a limit, a program, or whatever. So you start looking at your words that you're using in your own mind, which is basically developing the next moment for you. So everything that I'm thinking, everything that I'm saying, all my words, all my phrases, all my sentences, all that's going through my mind is basically making my reality from that moment forward. It's creating the framework. So I say I am, and then everything that follows I am, the limit.
Yep.
I am sick. I am healthy. I am strong. I am weak. I am, and then we fill in the blanks, right? The key is to start not filling in the blanks and being open to the unknown.
What
Because-
is, Doug, I got to ask you, because we're going to run out of time here in a minute, but what is the difference between a belief and a knowing?
Well, the knowing is what gets in our way. We think we know. We think we know the answers. We think we know what the outcome should be. We try to develop those outcomes, and we make, basically, I talk about this in the book, we make a reservation for what we want in the future, whether that be an outcome or something else. And we program that in our mind so hard. We want this, and this, when actually it could be better than that. So you just do everything you can possibly do in this moment, the best that you can possibly be, and you bring your absolute best self to that moment, then the outcome is going to be what the outcome is going to be, and it's going to be the best outcome. But when we limit ourselves with programs and reservations, I call them in the book, we try to reserve a certain outcome, we're actually limiting ourselves. So let's say I want to make $1 million next year. Well, then I might make $1 million, but I'm not going to make 2. I program myself to 1. You see what I'm saying? Like I could make 10 million next year or this year. But one of the things I think that's really, really powerful is when you talk about beliefs, we tend to project them. That belief becomes our next reality. So when I say that you need to expand your mind, you do it with time. And the way that you do it with time is the mind doesn't understand time. It does, but it doesn't. So when you create a belief, you can create that belief as if it were in the future. Like let's say that my goal this year is to make $10 million. What I would do is I would take that goal that's in the future, right? I would think about all the things that need to develop or whatever to make that happen. And then I would put myself in that future, looking back after having accomplished it. And you don't necessarily have to have all the details to how that, proceeded to happen. But what you do need to do is you need to tie it and anchor it to the emotions that you'll feel once that has happened, as if it's already happened. So what you're doing is you're painting a picture in the future, you're plucking it out of the future, and you're putting it in the past. You're being thankful as hell about it.
Yep.
Your heart swells because you're so, proud or happy or, thrilled for all the people and the lives that you've affected and all the things that you became and overcame to be that and for that to happen. And your heart just explodes like bigger, and you're in that future moment having already accomplished it. If you can do that every morning and every night, it can't not happen. It has to happen because your belief structure is already there. Your mind doesn't know the difference. So your mind has expanded and then you become it. Does that make sense?
Rochelle, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it kind of just follows into the last thing. Usually I ask people what's something that you'd love to tell our audience, and I would like to pick what that is, because you just touched on it, is what would you say to have people do every morning to connect to that and start practicing being in that energy and that wavelength?
Well, the biggest thing is to focus on what you want, not what you don't want, because a lot of people, like, they think about, they think about what they want in the negative, and then, where your focus and attention goes, where energy flows. So if you're focused on what you don't want, well, that's what you're going to get. That's why fear is so freaking important. Like, because worry, fear, being conscious of what you want versus what you don't want, that drives the attention factor. So if your attention is driven towards what you don't want, that's where your energy's going. That's where your life's going. If it's 51%, 49, then the odds are going towards that. If it's 75, 25, then you're heavily weighted to get what you don't want. So that's the part where your awareness needs to come in and start to, straddle the timeline and go, okay, first of all, am I caught up in the past or the future? And second of all, am I focused on what I don't want and what I want? So that you can make effective choices in the moment to go towards what you want, not towards what you don't want.
So would you say that waking up every day and setting yourself up to already be thankful for that day, rather than, even if it's just, a certain goal, but having that when you wake up would be a great practice to start with?
Well, think big. You have to think big. Like, it can't be little. Like, little, yes, you do need to make incremental gains because the stair step up is ever, evolving. Right. You can't leap from here to there without going through the steps. But yeah, I mean, you have to think big and challenge yourself. And that's going to bring you up against those things that you either fear or have not overcome yet within yourself. So, like, by thinking big, like the things that drive you, the things that you want to do that are really touching you in your heart, those things that you can do, you must do, those are the things that you need to get to. And so by thinking big, it will put you in front of the challenge that you need to overcome to get there.
So I got a question for you. Hey, we're going to run out of time because this question will take way too much time to discuss, but I want to leave it with everybody. Because in my world, Doug, I have a knowing. And the knowing is that the universe is conspiring with me to make everything happen exactly the way the universe wants it to happen. And so therefore, I have the gospel according to Paul McCartney, which is just let it be. And let the universe perform its miracles. And I know that it will. And I believe that it will because it has to.
Yes. And that's very easy to answer to, Kevin, because if you frame your life that way, and this is getting a lot of attention in our community, the one that we're trying to help people understand. And that's, if you can frame your life in a way that says life happens for me, not to me, it opens you up to everything you need to understand.
It does indeed. And this, Doug, this has been an exciting and an exhilarating conversation. Yes. And we need to have you back. Will you come back?
Absolutely. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me.
And your website again, please.
UnlimitYourLimit.com.
Unlimit your limit, or catch your limit, because Michelle's going to go fishing later. No. UnlimitYourLimit.com. And I want to thank you for being here. And Michelle, you were simply awesome. And thank you for hanging around with me, because you're learning so much.
This is so fun. Thank you so much, Doug.
Thank you guys so much. Yeah, let's do it again sometime soon, maybe when the next book comes out.
Yeah.
Certainly before August.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
All righty then. Everybody, have a great day and enjoy your week. Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin at KM.